So I know you're probably wondering what I did while the swelling was making its way down from my forehead. And you're probably wondering what I did when I was up at the emergency room waiting to be attended to by the physicians. You're probably wondering what I did most of yesterday while I just kind of laid in my chair with ice bags on my eyes. But you probably know I did a lot of 478, calming the storm. So let's get right into it. Remembering the count now. We're bringing we're bringing the breath down into the belly to a count of 4. We're holding that breath for a count of 7, and we're exhaling for a count of 8. This is the calming the storm practice that we've been working with now since we began our journey with Mark's Gospel. Again, 4, 7, 8. And I will assist you on the first 2 cycles. You'll be on your own for the last 3. And I would encourage you, as you work through the cycles, that the count lengthens. You might begin with 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3. And you can try this whenever you have a free moment or a need to calm the storm. Let's come into the posture now, both feet on the floor. Come forward enough in the pew to where the back is unsupported. Rest the hands gently in your lap. And remember, our intention always with any form of meditation is divine union, improving our conscious contact with God, the Spirit within. And become attentive to the breath. Bring it down into the belly. Lengthen it out. The practice again, in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, exhale to a count of 8. Breathing out now, and we begin in 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in 2, 3, 4, out, hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in. Very nice. Coming back now to a natural breath. And just reflect on that experience. Has there been any shift in your consciousness from before we started the breath work until when we completed it? any shift in awareness. Good. You can try that at home. Again, the Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to our dear friend, St. Mark. Glory to you, Lord Christ. Pay attention, 2 stories, pretty quick. Jesus set out and went away to the region of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know he was there. Yet he couldn't escape notice. But a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit immediately heard about him, and she came and bowed down at his feet. Now the woman was a Gentile of Syro-Phoenician origin. She begged him to cast the demon out of her little daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." But she answered him, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." And then he said to her, "For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." So she went home, found the child lying on the bed, the demon gone. Then he returned from the region of Tyre and went by way of Sidon toward the Sea of Galilee in the region of the Decapolis. They brought to him a deaf man who had an impediment in his speech, and they begged him to lay his hand on him. He took the man aside in private, away from the crowd. He put his fingers into his ears, and he spat and touched the man's tongue. Then, looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, "Ephphatha," that is, "be opened." Immediately his ears were opened, his tongue was released, and he spoke plainly. And then Jesus ordered them to tell no one. But the more he ordered them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. They were astounded beyond measure, saying, "He has done everything well. He even makes the deaf to hear and the mute to speak." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Christ. What do you say? Let's give it up for Jesus, huh? What a great job. So, got a couple stories here, and I have to admit this morning I am very indebted to a Lutheran pastor who oversees the parish, a Lutheran parish in, I believe it's Amherst, Wisconsin, called Tomorrow River Lutheran Parish. And just stumbled on this on the internet. I love the internet. All preachers. And I love email. I do. I use it a lot. Love texting. I'm not much of a social media guy. My daughter said when Facebook came out, "Don't go there, Dad. It's a black hole. You'll never crawl out." And I haven't. Don't have Facebook, Instagram. Don't even know what those do. Twitter, all that. But, as good as only that good. And, when it comes to really meaningful conversations with other people, especially if there's anything close to a tint of confrontation or, a little bit of friction, the email can be super dangerous because it's just so easy to misunderstand. Somebody could say something and they'll take it completely out of their context and miss completely what's going on behind it. What's missing on email, of course, is touch, tone, volume, eye contact. I can see it in your eyes. I hurt your feelings. I can see it in your eyes. You're angry. I can see it in your eyes. You're crying. Facial expression, hand gestures, demeanor. None of those things are present on the email, and your imagination makes those up. It's best, and I always encourage people, when they say, I'm going to email. No. At the very least, a phone call, but best, mano a mano. Look them up, set aside a time. It's that important. Take the time and make sure everybody understands each other before we continue. And then there's texting. And that's even worse, because then the message is even more compact, and you get these short sentences, maybe even out of order, and to accompany them, you may or may not get an emoji, which is intended for one person by the person sending and misrepresented by the person receiving emojis. Again, for the most part, harmless, but every now and then, extremely dangerous. Too easy to be misunderstood. That's why, my wife's always said, when I come home smoking meth because somebody's said something that really put me off, I'm not telling that guy, get on the internet. Be careful when you hit that send button, because once you do, it is out there, and not just to them. It is out there for all eyes to behold and to misunderstand. Sleep on it. Reread it in the morning. If you feel the same way, good. If you don't, change it. But we have these luxuries before us, and we make use of them as best we can, but we are careful about it. But every now and then we run across some things in the Bible, some stories about Jesus where, you just wish there was more. You just wish there was more. Why? And, that's what we got this morning. Here we have Jesus drifting up into Tyre. Now, he's just come, and we know for a fact that in the last thing we had just last week, you remember that there were scribes and Pharisees that had come from Jerusalem. They were on a mission. These are like CIA. And they weren't even undercover. They were just there to fault find and see what this Palestinian peasant was up to. What's all the fuss about? And Jesus, of course, shuts them right down just as they came. And that's the last conversation. It's not what goes outside, it's what comes in and the defiling and all that kind of stuff. And now he goes up to Tyre. Well, who goes with him? We don't even know if his disciples were there. Why does he go up into Tyre? Tyre is way up in Lebanon. Tyre is a long way from where that last interaction happened in the Galilee. And it's a coastal town, and it's an affluent town. And who knows, maybe there's some wealthy landowner that encountered Jesus in the Galilee and said, hey, I got a place on the beach in Tyre. If you ever need a break, you're welcome to stay up there. There's plenty of room. Maybe Jesus went up there for a little downtime. I don't know. It doesn't say. He's in Tyre. What's he doing in Tyre? He's way outside of the box. Whose house is it? Who is the woman? How did she hear? What did she know? The only thing we know about her is that her little girl is possessed by a demon. And she is persevering. Any parent know what it's like when your kid is sick? To what end will you go? So here she is, bowing. Just what you like to see. That kind of reverence, that kind of perseverance, that kind of faith. That's coming out of her. Perseverance, faith, and not only that, but she's added service to it. This isn't for her. She's got everything going for her. She comes up. My daughter's possessed by a demon. Now, if you think there's a lack of information about all that, tell me about this next conversation. he calls that woman and her daughter dogs. Right in the text. What I have, you don't deserve. In essence. Is he having a bad hair day? Is he really just sick and tired of being sick and tired? Just tired of looking around at humanity and saying, these people. Is he a racist? Is he a misogynist? Can we think the worst of Jesus? It is what it is. Nobody knows. Doesn't say. We do know that her response, I mean, my hat goes off to this gal. Because no matter what Jesus intended, she's not about to be put down. She's going to stand up because her little girl is sick. And she said, I know you can do this. I know you can do this. I know who you are, and I know what you can do, and I want you to do it for my daughter. I want you to cast out that demon. And what you have, I mean, I don't care if it's a crumb that falls off the table. It won't take much, but my little girl is sick, and you can do this. Do it. And he does. Changes his mind. And we go from there. Interesting story. No? Wish you knew more? I do. He goes from there, and he goes to, he's going back to the Galilee, but it doesn't make any sense what he's doing. And just for you, just for the camera, this morning, I'm no cartographer, but this is a map. I don't know if you can see. Can you see this, Nathan? Is it on the screen? Get closer to the camera. How close? I mean, this map is not that great. Okay, good. Okay, so here we have, this is the Mediterranean, down here. You got Egypt, way down here. This is the area called Judea, and there's Jerusalem, the capital, way up there. There's the Dead Sea. We've heard all about that. Here is Samaria. That's the Samaria to the left. Got it? Right there? Okay. And then we have the Galilee up here, so you can see it's quite a journey. Jerusalem to Galilee, that's where Jesus was. And here up the coast, well into Lebanon, is the town called Tyre. A region called Tyre. Again, a very affluent trading port, international certainly, goods coming and going, considerable amount of wealth and so forth. And now it says that Jesus is leaving and going back to Galilee by way of Sidon. Now, way up here, way up north, 50 kilometers, that's how many miles? 40-something miles north. And then he's got to go all the way around this area and into this area on the east side of the Sea of Galilee called the Decapolis, which means 10 cities, that's Roman, and these are all Hellenistic developments, okay? So this is rife with Gentiles and non-Jews. So he's making this circuitous route, and it doesn't say at all why. You know, why does he go so far out of his way? It would be for us like going, if you want to get to San Francisco, and instead you go up to Mendocino, and then swing out by Sacramento, and then come back up in to San Francisco. Makes no sense. His journey makes no sense. What's he doing up there? And who were these people that brought this guy that was deaf and mute? We know all of a sudden this fellow show up, and he's deaf and mute, and they want him to heal him. Word has come to them too, apparently, way up in the middle of nowhere, that there's a healer on the way. So they bring this guy to him, and then now in this story, we just get more detail than we can even imagine. So it says very carefully, I'm sure you all are paying attention, but he says, he took the man aside out of public view, which is kind of a nice thing to do. Here's the deaf mute, kind of embarrassed by the fact that he can't speak well and can't hear anything at all, and that must be an uncomfortable world just to begin with. But for Jesus to say, come on, let's go over here. And then puts his fingers in his ears. What's that about? Shutting out the outside world, maybe. Don't listen to other voices. I'm the one that's talking now. Blah, 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 blah. Sticks his fingers in his ears and then spits and touches his tongue. Now, how does he spit and touch the tongue while his fingers are in the man's ears? Did he spit on the man's tongue? Is it that intimate? We can speculate. In this COVID era, this is probably something that we're not practicing with our friends. So, here we are with these two stories. And you can imagine that commentators over the years, Origen, Augustine, way back, when, up to contemporary times, have done their best and applied themselves to different interpretations. And it never has been this more the case in the Syro-Phoenician woman. I mean, because there is so little known, there's so much interpretation. And there are several, people guess certain ways. Let me find myself here. Maybe some say Jesus is just testing the woman, wants to know where she's coming from. And what would be, what's unusual about that particular interpretation is that it never happens in any of the other healing stories. He never really asks anyone about themselves or why or what they want or anything. He doesn't test them. He doesn't want to see if they have faith. He tells them if that's what he sees, but he doesn't test them. Some say that Jesus was simply learning. He was still on a learning curve. He had done his best with his people and wanted now to find out, what it's like really to wait outside the box. Let's go up to Tyre. Let's see how they respond to what I have to offer up there. And maybe what happens in that event is that she becomes his teacher. You think you've been calling us dogs from down there, and you need to know, Syro-Phoenicia, these people are enemies. I mean, it's awful how they talk about and think about each other. They are the other. You've been calling us dogs forever. Maybe that's not what we are. Maybe your mission is as much to us as it is to your own. And not only do we deserve crumbs, but we deserve a lot more than that. We deserve every bit as much as you're giving to your own. Maybe it's a lesson and she's the teacher. Some say maybe, and this is trying to soften the blow, maybe he's just teasing her. Maybe he's got a smile on his face. Oh, you dogs, you think you can get this and all that. And meanwhile, all the time, he and she both know full well that he's going to heal her daughter. Maybe that's the case. And here's one that's come along pretty quickly. Maybe the fact is that Jesus is tired. He's grumpy. And he's been, they're after him. The scribes and the Pharisees are starting to come down. And the people all, can you imagine the celebrity and what that would do to your life? I mean, it's fun to be a celebrity, but it's not very much fun to be a celebrity. And maybe he's just grumpy. Maybe he's having a bad day, and maybe he just barks at her and says something completely out of character just because he's at the end. He's come up to take a break, time by the shore, groups back into it. It's his Jesus that is fully human, just like you and me, tired, grumpy, lashing out at people we love when they least deserve it. So how do we understand this story? What context do we put it in? Well, the important thing is to put it in context. Is this the Jesus that we're accustomed to and know and love? I mean, sing in the great hymn, Love Divine, Jesus, thou art all compassion, pure, unbounded love thou art. Visit us with thy salvation. Enter every trembling heart. This is the Jesus we know. This is the Jesus that we love. And this is the Jesus who is in ministry in the Galilee, answering the questions for us. What is it like to minister to the other? And Jesus is going to do the same thing that he's done all of his life. He's going to teach. He's going to heal. And he is going to, in his very person, manifest the love of a holy God. What's the takeaway? What can we take away from this? A couple of things, I think, for me. The one thing that I like about both stories is that there are intermediaries, intercessors. In the first, the desperate mother, obviously, praying concern for her daughter, obviously. The second, the group of people that brought the deaf and dumb man to Jesus. They both exhibit perseverance, will not be stopped, will not be stopped. We're not going to stop. They have great faith. They know that Jesus can do it. They know it, and it's not for them. It's not for them. You know, I got to admit, I spent a lot of time asking for healing. I did. I'm, not ashamed of that. It's just what I did. I wish I'd spent as much time praying praying for myself. Maybe there's a lesson in that for me. So it would seem to me somehow we have this persevering faith that serves as perhaps the avenue that we might best approach these two very important stories of what it's like to go into a foreign land and be your true self and to manifest the God who's loved you first in order that you might love others. Ties in nicely, I think. When York told me about he and Elizabeth and how she in prayer had been impressed to offer prayer for all those who are in such need as we speak. You know, my son is just my son-in-law is just coming back from the Calistoga fire, exhausted, as are many others. You imagine the help, and they've shown it, being extended to those in places of such desperate need. Katrina, again, all over on the same day. The floods ripping New York and New Jersey. Again, to say nothing of what's happening in Afghanistan and all over the world. And the encouragement to pray and persevere and to not give up and to know God cares and that God can do something about it and that your prayers make a difference.
Contributions to St. Luke's Episcopal Church help to make the digital ministry and other outreach within the community possible. If it is in your heart to make a donation, St. Luke's secure PayPal link, as well as the church's mailing information, may be found in the description of this video. Thank you.